Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our meeting tonight. Thank you for taking the time out of, I'm sure, as all of us have, a very busy day to listen to some information that we believe is going to be life-changing. And I think once we finish up with the meeting tonight, it'll be something that'll be said that would help either a son or daughter or a sister or brother, or could help your household, your own household. How money works is going to be the subject for tonight. And I think all of us know how to work for the money, and that's not the problem. But the question is, how does the money work? And so, in many cases, all we need is a guide for success. And if we had a simple guide, we can go a little bit further. When I came up as a child, we didn't talk about a whole lot about how money works. We just talked about how to go and get some, how to work two jobs or three jobs or four jobs in some cases. Whatever it took to go out there and make it happen, that's exactly what we did. My name is Ricky Pitts, and on behalf of Bessie Cooper Harris and all of our team members, we want to thank you for joining in with us tonight. And I hope that before this meeting is over, even during the meeting, something will be said the way you'll say, I need to do that. And I believe that'll help my son, that would help my daughter, my sister, or my brother before the meeting is all over tonight. So let's kind of jump right on in and get started here. We believe that education should be free. And folks are asking themselves a few very important questions. How can I save for the future when I have so much debt? That's a common concern all around the country because we get paid so much money and the raises are far and few in between. How can I do it? Number two is, how much money is enough to retire? What if I got started late? That's another question. Number three is, if I die prematurely, what's going to happen to my family? That's a really important question that's asked everywhere with the young, the middle-aged, and the old. Don't want to leave here and leave the family, as the old song says, struggling and straining, trying to get home. Want to make sure they're going to be okay if I were to die prematurely. The next one they wanted to ask is, can I ever become financially secure? It seems like it's such a far-fetched goal to have. Is it even a remote possibility that I can get to a time in life that where the bills are all on bank draft and we don't have to worry about paying them because we know the funds are there? Can I be not wealthy, not rich, just financially secure? Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that you can. Now, we believe, yes, you can. No matter what your income level is, you don't have to be making 400,000 a year or 300,000 a year. You can get out of debt. You can build savings, and you can get on the path to financial independence. And that key word there is path. I was talking to my baby brother the other day. There's some property for sale in our hometown in Lochapoka, Alabama, and they want about, I think, 8 or 900,000 dollars for that property. But it has about, I guess, 11 to 12 acres of land, a whole big house on the property there. Two-story home, but it's upstairs, which is not good for the knees at my point, and my wife and I point right now. But he said, Rick, if you get that property, we can get four-wheelers and we can cut paths, through the woods and just, we all are kids at heart. All of us grown men are still kids at heart. We can ride the four-wheeler. We're coming in and cut paths through the woods. When we were kids, we did that. We didn't have four-wheelers, I can assure you of that, because we barely were surviving in that time. But we used to play in the woods, and we cut paths in the woods, and we had a path to the branch and a path to these bushes here, or that pear tree or that plum bush. We had paths that we cut from walking and playing in the woods all the time. Well, in our life, we need a path to financial independence, a path to financial security, and that takes a plan, that takes a strategy. Well, number one, we got to first of all deal with this thing called debt. We got to take control. You see, control is not just doesn't yield itself voluntarily. Control has to be taken. If we take control, we can get our financial house together. Now, there are 9 things that I want to highlight here. I'm not going to deal with all 9, but I do want to talk about 4 of them. One is pay yourself first, change the way we think, earn additional income, and set goals and have a plan. One of the things that affect a lot of people, a lot of us, is that we set a goal but don't have a plan. And that causes internal conflict. A goal breathes life into a plan. A goal gives us a reason to get up, to stay up late, to get up early and to run in between time. A goal is something that we have to look forward to, and it's important that we have a goal. So, goal setting tips. Now, I'm not going to deal with all five of those, but I want to deal with these two right here. List your goals and create a timeline. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever that goal is, if my goal is to gain weight or to lose weight or to put on muscle or to whatever the case may be, or to run a marathon or to pass an exam or to take another course over here at the college or to go out and cut the grass or to put a garden in, we got to set a goal, but then also have a timeline because look at how quick these first few weeks of the new year has gone by. We're going to turn around and we're going to be in a brand new year. We got to set a goal, but also have a timeline to achieving that goal. Then we're going to talk about pay yourself first. You see, we tend to pay everybody else before paying ourselves. And we are the one that's working for the money. We're working 20 hours overtime, 15 hours overtime, or sometimes 40 hours overtime, 80 hours in 1 week. And so with that being the case, it's critical that we think about almost think a little selfish. Are we gonna pay ourselves before paying the water bill, light bill, gas bill, car payment, how and the insurance on the cars and everything else? Let's pay ourselves because at some point we're gonna get old unless we die young. So we got to plan for a place that we're going to be in for the rest of our lives. Now, paying ourselves first, there's a three account system that we all need. Number one is an emergency fund. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about 3 months, at least 3 months of our net income set aside over here in a checking or savings account just in case we need to get to it right away because we never know when an emergency will come up. The other day, my wife said we needed a brand new washer and a brand new dryer. Now, if you don't like going to a laundromat, which most of us don't like going to a laundromat, you want to have a wash and dry at home at convenience. When that thing went out, and if you've had one for a long, long time, it's hard to do without those things. It's like an emergency. However, they don't give them away. Okay, those things cost very, very good now, more so than they did 30 years ago, and they don't last as long. But my point is, have money put aside for things like an air conditioner that goes out. Things like you got to get on a plane and fly to Chicago or California all of a sudden because a family emergency arose. That's number one. Number two is a short-term account. That's about 6 months of the income. A short-term account, if you intend to buy a laptop computer, you intend to make a down payment on another car because the one that we have now might be on its last leg. That's a short-term account. But that last one is a wealth building account. Want to have enough money to retire with some degree of dignity. Now that's gonna have to be intentional. You see, because that's such a long-term account, the motivation to do it tends not to be as strong as the motivation for the short-term account because the short-term account is going to be something we're going to use in the near term for a down payment on the car, for a brand new gadget, for a new cell phone, for a new Apple Watch, for a new something in the short term. But that long term is looking 10, 15, 20, 30, sometimes 40 years down the road. And it's important to have that account because, as I mentioned, time is marching on. I heard one guy say time is intoxicated with obedience. It does not wait, it does not negotiate, it does not deliberate, it marches on. It is extremely consistent. And so it's important then that we look down the road for retirement. We got to pay off that debt. And debt, ladies and gentlemen, is an enemy. She's standing in this picture here on the top of the mountain with the flag because he was able to climb that mountain and get that debt under control. Either we're gonna control the debt or the debt will. Don't let nobody fool you now. It will control us. We got an example here of debt stacking, and we got one, let's see, one here, two, three, four. Now these are all the bills over here. But at some point, they're going to have freed up $220. They're going to take that 220, add it to the next bill. Until that's paid out, now they got 573 freed up. They're going to take that 573, add it to the next bill until it's paid out. And now they got 1124 freed up. They're going to take that 1124 that's freed up, add it to the next bill until they've paid that bill out. Now they got 1427 freed up. That bill is gone. That one is gone. The car is gone. That credit card is gone. All they have now is a mortgage. They're gonna take that 1427, add it to the mortgage, and send the mortgage company the entire 2720 per month. Somebody said, Ricky, I just ain't nowhere in the world I can do that because when one is paid up, paid out, I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, I got some freed up money to go get me something else, to go on a nice vacation, whatever the case may be. What we are encouraging tonight, if the goal is to eliminate the debt, uh, don't do that. Don't do it because it'll have the debt would linger a long, long, long time. Now let's take a look at how that looks if we don't do it. If we do a debt stacking program, if we do it, we'll be out of debt 14 years sooner. Rather than going being in debt for 23 years, we'll be out of debt altogether in 9 years and we'll avoid $130,000 in interest. Just by doing a debt stacking program, when one bill is paid out, take that $100, take that 200, take that 500, take that 425, add it to the very next bill because it's already going out of the house anyway right now, and we've gotten used to it. Let's take that and add it to the very next bill to accelerate the process of getting out of debt altogether. And it makes a huge difference. Now, we also have to avoid some common credit mistakes. I'm not going to deal with all five of these. I want to just deal with that first one, not putting value on our credit. At one time, I was strongly against co-signing for anybody for anything until I had to remember at one point somebody co-signed for me when I was 16, 17 years old trying to get myself established. The big mama of the community took a chance and signed for this little fellow right here, had a little part-time job. Went to the local downtown Auburn, Alabama bank, and they lent me, I think it was $500 or $1,000, but she had to co-sign. But now she knew I was a pretty manageable little fellow, and kind of I kept my word even at 16, 17 years old. So she saw that I believe this little fellow here is going to pay it back, and which I did. And my point is, however, if you're going to do that, be sure and very sure that you're going to do it with someone that has some degree of keeping their word. So there's some integrity involved there. If not, if we don't really protect that credit and avoid that, and then put value on it, what's going to happen? We'll co-sign for an individual, and they won't keep their word, and you'll have to pay that debt. So it may be that if you're going to co-sign for someone, be able to pay the payment just in case they don't. All right. Put value. I know I'm taking a little time on this tonight because this has destroyed a lot of families because somebody didn't keep their word and we took a chance on them and they said, well, listen, I just ain't got it. And got an attitude with you, right? So there are 5 tips also to raise the credit score. I don't have time to deal with all five, but I want to look at this one right here. Don't miss a payment. So, Ricky, how in the world can I not miss a payment? Well, it's important to take the time to really calculate. Now, this is going to sound real simple. Exactly what's coming into your home every month. This is after the water bill, well, no, after the FICA, federal, state, local, 401k, all your deductions, health insurance, long-term care insurance, all the deductions coming out of your paycheck. What do you have left? And it's important to know we can't spend more than we have coming in. And that's going to be critical. It's going to be critical on all the payments to put them on a bank draft, put them on a monthly bank draft so it can never be late. But now it's going to be important also to know, when I say calculate, what's due every 7 days and what has to be in that account every 7 days or every 14 days, because when that draft goes through, it goes through. And we all know the banks make their money on fees, insufficient charges, and so on and so forth. Not on these deposits, they make their money on fees. And the banks can reorder the draft that goes out because they know this is going to be a $575 draft. The one that's due is going to be $75. We're going to reorder that one, send that 575 through, cause a bank, cause an overpayment, an overdraft rather, and that's going to be $35, $40. You got to know how to bank. The banks are very strategic now. They're in business to make money, but not just don't let them take our money. The next important thing is to discover the rule of 72. And what that rule says, if I divide my rate of return into the number 72, it's going to approximate the number of years it takes our money to double. Let's take a look at this. If we're getting a 3% rate of return, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to double every 24 years. So in 24 years, that 10 went to 20, and that 20 went to 40 in 48 years. If they're getting 6%, it's going to double every 6 years. I'm sorry, 12 years. So that 10 went to 20 in 12 years, then 40, then 80, then 160. If they're getting 12%, it's going to double every 6 years. So by the time they get to 48 years, that is $2.5 million. That's 6 times more than they have over here at 3%. $2.5 million. Let me say that again. $2.5 million, and somebody else that did the exact same thing, put in the same amount of money, only has 40,000, and the one next to them only has $160,000. People are destroyed. Now, we all got to agree on this for the lack of knowledge. And it's basic information. And we're trying to get this out to everyone as best we can because it can affect legacy. It can affect generational wealth. The next important thing to take a look at is just a little bit can have a a real big impact. Let's say we got a child that's born, grandchild, new child, came in the world last night. And you say, what we're going to do rather than getting all these toys and all of this, when gifts come in, we're going to set that money aside and we're going to put aside $20 a month to that child is 10 years old. Just $20 every single month. We're going to invest that money. Will it make a difference? Well, yes. By the time that child is 10 years old, at just 20 a month, that's $3,900. By the time that child is 40 years old, that's $94,000. You might say, Ricky, $94,000 is not a whole lot of money. Well, let me ask you this. How many people can you count on one hand that you know personally that's 40 years old that's got $100,000 saved? Well, not a whole lot, ladies. And that's not put anybody down. It's just that's what the stats say. But let's go a little bit further. Let's say that child is is a teenager now. They're getting more gifts. They're getting more money. The child, as a matter of fact, the child said, "Give me money. Don't give me a toy or a gift. Don't give me clothes. Give me money." And they start putting aside $100 a month. And let's say they did this the same when the child was born, $100 per month at birth. At 10 years old, that child has $19,500. At 40 years old, $471,000. Ladies and gentlemen, this is real. Compound interest is amazing. It's the most powerful force in the universe down here on this earth, right? Compound interest. It's because it seems like it works like magic. It's not mystical. It's not magical. It's mathematical. So we got to we should do, let me say it that way, a better job encouraging our grandchildren and children to invest money and to start early, because if they start early, down the road, they're going to be so proud that they did. Now, it's important to buy the right kind of life insurance. If there's a right kind, there must be a not so right kind, right? And we're going to take a look at that tonight because this is one area here that contributes a large portion to generational wealth and legacy, because everybody at some point will leave this world. Nobody came here to stay. Now, this is just a fact. This is the reality of mortality. Everybody's going to leave at some point. And it's important to have life insurance, and also important to have the right kind of life insurance. Now, what should we know about life insurance? Number one, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of life insurance? It is to replace the loss of an income in the event of a premature death. Now, life is uncertain, but death is for sure. Everything living at some point will die. So the purpose is to make sure we don't leave our family behind with a whole lot of debt obligations, with a house and a mortgage. Leave them a house without a mortgage. So number one is purpose. Number two is, what should you buy? What should we buy? Well, depending on your income, if it's high, if it's low, if it's in the middle, doesn't matter. Term insurance is the best way to cover our loved ones. We should buy the same kind of insurance that Uncle Sam puts on the Army, Navy, Air Force, or the Marines. That's going to be term insurance, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going to put universal life, Not going to put index universal life. He's not going to put infinite banking. He's not going to put whole life on the men and women in our armed forces. It's going to be term, and it's a large amount. I think it's at this point now it's $500,000. And many of our military personnel, active duty, buy something in addition to that. I know they do because they buy with Primerica. That's the truth. So it's important to understand that. Number three is who should buy it. At one time, there was a different train of thought here. They said if you don't have any kids and you're young, you don't really need insurance. But that train of thought has changed. If we're young and we have an adult depending on us for financial support, that could be a mother, could be a grandmother, could be a niece or nephew. If we pass, that income is gone, it's going to be rough on whomever is left behind that was depending upon us. And then if you're young and get life insurance while you're young, at some point you're going to purchase a house. At some point you may decide to get married, have a family, and you want to make sure you're covered while you're young. It's cheap when you're young. Get a long-term, 30, 35-year term. When you buy a home, pay it off in 15 to 30 years. You're covered. You have enough insurance to pay that house off or leave a big dent in the balance. So it's important to buy it. Let's talk about what folks are buying, however. And this has been pushed by real skilled salespeople. It's called Index Universal Life. And we'll call them John and Mary, 35 years old. They have $250,000 each, and they're paying $251 a month. Now that's a good piece of money, 251 per month for $250,000 apiece. But how did they do it? They told them that when you get 65 years old, you're gonna have $127,000 saved. And that just for a lot of people that just sounds real good, and I can have insurance and have a savings too. They say yes, you can. Well, let's look at the difference. They can put that same 251 in the budget, get the same 250 on him, the same 250 on her for $88 a month. Now that's $163 a month less. They're gonna put that 163 in a Roth IRA and at a reasonable rate of return. That's $300,000 versus 127 over here. Now there's a whole lot of other things I can talk about is index universal life, but I won't for the sake of time. But 300 versus 127. I think my point has been well made. Now let's talk about deferring taxes, and because taxes can really can kind of be an enemy. I hate to use a word that strong, but it can take a lot of our income over our lifetime, and we can defer taxes and not pay as much on the earnings. It makes a big difference. Let's take a look at this. You got three scenarios. I'm gonna deal with this 20 years and maybe this 30 year here, and they're putting aside $500 per month. And every time he puts that $500 aside, at the end of the year, he's going to pay taxes on the earnings because there's no taxes are deferred. Just putting aside $500 a month in a good mutual fund and not touching that money. And by the time he gets to 20 years down the road, $200,000. The second one, the taxes are deferred on the return. Let's call that a Roth IRA. Well, let's call that with a Roth IRA, you can't deduct it, but the earnings, the dividends, the capital gains, the asset appreciation, all the earnings are deferred. And when they take that money out at a certain time, they pay no taxes and pay no penalties if they wait until 59 and a half and start it and don't touch it for the first 5 years. That's a big deal. Look how much money they got by doing that. 260,000, about 55 more thousand dollars. The one on the end, the contributions and the returns are deferred until distribution. And so let's call that a 401k. And if you have a 401k on your job or a 457 or a 403b or TSP, any kind of tax sheltered account, it would be wise to put money in that account while you're employed with that employer. At least put up to the match. If they're matching dollar for dollar up to 3%, put 3%. Then they matching dollar for dollar up to 5, try and put 5%. Whatever that match is, try to go up to the match. You can do other things on the outside once you've done that, most definitely. But look at the difference it makes. 333,000 in 40 years, 486, 719, 915. And they all are putting aside the same $500 per month. It makes all the difference in the world to have a strategy, to have a plan, a financial planning strategy. Because in the long term, without that, we're gonna come up short. Now, which one do we need? Well, we gotta decide what works best for us. Number one, is it a traditional IRA where the money that we put in, that 5,000, that 6,000, that 7,000 a year if you're under 50 years old, 8,000 if you're over 50 years old, there's a $1,000 catch-up provision. Should you do that first one, traditional, deductible? Number two, traditional, non-deductible, or number three, a Roth IRA that's non-deductible. Now, the folks that I've been talking to over the years, a great majority are choosing the Roth IRA because when they take that money out, they pay no taxes. I don't care if it's grown to whatever, $1 million or 500,000. They can take that 500, that million, that 300,000, that 2.4 million, and move to another state and not owe any taxes on that money. That is a big, big, big deal. So I want you to think about that and decide on which one is right for you. Now, let's go back and talk about the young people. And we're running out of time here. And why is it so important that they start early? Here's an example right here. They started at 22 years old over here, putting aside $6,500 every single year, like 541 a month. Started at 22 and stopped at 29. You heard me right. Now they started at 22 and stopped at 29. In the end, they have $2.3 million saved, and they only put in $52,000 altogether. On the other side, they started at age 30 and stopped at 67. So that's like 8 years versus 37 years. Now you got to say, you said, Rick, if they're going to do it for 37 years, surely they're going to have a whole lot more money than the one that did it for 8 years, right? No, ma'am, and no, sir. Because compound interest is our friend when we start early. I told my daughter, I said, I don't know, we're not putting pressure on her. You can't do that with your child. When you have I said, baby, when you have a child, that child says, right away, that child has an account already established, like immediately. It's incredible. So that's 30, started at 30 years old, and they went all the way to 67 years old, putting aside the same $6,500 per month. They put in 247,000, and they got 2.2 million versus 2.3. It is absolutely imperative that we get our children to start putting money back now. Get them to start doing it early, become an owner, not a loaner. As a child, I was told to take my money down to the bank. And I did that because I didn't know any better. But now we're saying let's learn to bypass the middleman and put our money where the banks are putting theirs, and that's in this global economy, because in the end, it makes all the difference in the world. Now, I got to bring this to a close now, and I want to talk to you about invest with professional money management. Now, what is professional money management? That's mutual funds. Mutual funds have been around since the 1920s and 30s, and they provide a way whereby investors can pool their resources under the management of professionals. The typical investor don't have the time, they don't have the interest, they don't have the expertise to know who to invest in and who not to invest in. Mutual funds have a full-time commitment. They got a professional portfolio manager. They have diversification. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. And they have marketability. If you got to get your money out by a certain time, they got to have that money in your hands, whatever that market value is, at a certain time. That's a big, big deal. But there's a few things we got to focus on if we're going to start investing money and make it work for us. Number one is discipline. Oh my goodness, that's that old self-control. And it goes back to anything else we're trying to achieve. It's going to take discipline, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing just happens if we don't bring ourselves under control. And investing money for the long term is no different from anything else. Number two, diversification. I want to kind of highlight that again. I mentioned that a few minutes ago, is not putting all our eggs in one basket. You see, there's no such thing as this is going to be the best mutual fund, the best stock forever. What is a superstar today is not a superstar tomorrow. So to hedge that, it's important to put money in mutual funds where no more than 5% of that money is in any one company. By the way, one mutual fund, one can have up to 150 stocks in one fund. And so now we have ownership in this American economy. And that's what we want, ladies and gentlemen. Ownership in this American economy, and making our money work as hard for us as we work for it. We do that with diversification. And the last one is dollar cost averaging, not trying to time the market. If you're gonna put aside $50 a month, $100 a month, 1,000 a month, 500 a month, let's do it every month at a certain time and don't miss it like clockwork on the 15th, 28th, 1st, 3rd, whatever it is, every month on as a bank draft and don't miss it. And we're buying when the market is up and we're buying when the market is down. We're not trying to time the market, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I close by saying this. Yes, yes, you can do it. You can do it. Now, you might not want to lay on the beach. I don't like the beach. Okay. That's not my thing, but somebody else may want to lay on the beach or go to a nice vacation or whatever the goal is, it takes a plan. And ladies and gentlemen, if all of us do what we talked about tonight, and I've been doing that for over 35 years, and we know it works, and has worked for a lot of our clients, and works for a lot of people around the country that have really embraced these principles. They work. They work if we work it. Hey, look, thank you so much for plugging into our meeting tonight. I want to encourage you to get with that person that invited you out tonight and schedule a one-on-one meeting and talk about what needs to be done to make sure we have a good understanding of how this money works, and let's make this money work for us. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great rest of the night. Take care.